What will happen when a mother elephant blocks the road and cries in front of an entire village? Her eyes are filled with pain, and her loud calls sound like she's begging for help. What is she trying to say? Why won't she move? There are so many questions, but the answers lie in her heartbreaking journey. So, without any delay, let's begin the story. The story begins in a quiet village, deep in the green heart of India, a peaceful place where people and elephants had always lived side by side. In this village, called Asangi, seeing an elephant was as normal as seeing a cow or goat. The elephants would often walk through the village, pulling leaves from trees or drinking water from the river. No one was scared. In fact, the villagers felt lucky to live so close to these gentle giants. There was a quiet understanding between them. People respected the elephants, and the elephants seemed to respect them back. But one morning, something felt different. It was just another day. The sun was rising and people were getting ready to work. But then they saw her, a mother elephant standing in the middle of the road. She wasn't moving. Her eyes looked sad. She made loud, emotional sounds, almost like crying. Her feet stomped the ground, and her trunk swung with urgency. She wouldn't let anyone pass. It was clear she wasn't just wandering around. She was trying to tell them something. Everyone stopped and stared, wondering what could be so wrong. Then someone noticed something that made their heart stop. Tears. Real tears were falling from the mother elephant's eyes. No one in the village had ever seen anything like it. Her big eyes were wide and full of pain. She wasn't angry. She wasn't scared. She looked heartbroken. It was as if she was trying to say something without words, asking for help in the only way she could. The villagers stood silently, shocked and worried. They had always known elephants were smart, but this was something different. This mother wasn't just sad. She was desperate. Something was terribly wrong. She looked at them one last time, then slowly turned toward the forest. After a few steps, she stopped, turned her head, and raised her trunk. It felt like she was saying, "Come with me." And they did. Of course they did. To them, elephants weren't just animals, they were family. She led the group into the forest. Her steps were slow but firm, stopping now and then to be sure the villagers were still with her. Everything around them went quiet. Something was waiting in the woods. Something serious. Finally, they reached a clearing. In the middle stood an old stone well. It looked like no one had used it in years, but it was still deep and dark. The mother elephant walked straight to the edge and looked inside. The villagers rushed over, unsure of what they'd find. When they looked down, their hearts dropped. At the bottom of the well was a baby elephant, her calf. It was trapped between the stone walls, standing in water. The baby was still alive, lifting its tiny trunk above the surface to breathe. But it was clearly stuck. The walls were steep and slippery. There was no way it could climb out on its own. The mother elephant stood beside the well, her eyes full of pain. She didn't make a sound. She just waited, as if begging them to save her baby. The villagers didn't waste a moment. Some ran back to call the animal rescue team. Others stayed to comfort the mother, speaking to her gently, letting her know they were trying to help. Soon, the rescue team arrived with ropes, tools, and experts. After looking at the situation, they had a plan. The safest way to rescue the calf was to dig a sloped path, a ramp, so it could walk out. They called for an excavator, but dark clouds were quickly rolling in. The forecast warned of heavy rain. If the water in the well rose, the baby might not be able to breathe. Time was running out. Everyone knew they had to work fast. Every second mattered now. The team sprang into action. There was no time to waste. While waiting for the excavator, they grabbed shovels, buckets, and even used their bare hands to start digging. They knew they couldn't just stand there. The baby elephant was in danger. The mother was growing anxious and dark clouds were rolling in fast. The mother elephant didn't leave her spot. She walked back and forth, clearly worried, but never took her eyes off the well. She didn't roar or charge. She seemed to understand they were trying to help. While digging, the rescue team brought in a veterinarian to check on the calf. The brave vet climbed down partway and looked at the baby. There were cuts and bruises, but nothing too serious. Gently, she cleaned the wounds with antiseptic. The baby twitched at first, then slowly raised its trunk, almost like a small thank you. That tiny sign filled everyone's heart with hope. The machine dug steadily, cutting through the soft, wet ground. The rescuers stood nearby, guiding the operator carefully. Suddenly, a few loose bricks near the top of the well broke free and tumbled down. The baby elephant flinched and quickly moved to avoid them. Rescue workers rushed to remove more loose bricks before they became dangerous. The mother elephant stood close, her eyes locked on the well. She was nervous, but she didn't panic. It was like she trusted the people. After more than an hour of hard, muddy work, the ramp was almost ready. But there was still one wall left that the baby needed to get through. The excavator moved back, and the team stepped in with hammers and crowbars. Bit by bit, they broke the bricks. Then something amazing happened. The mother elephant slowly walked forward. She pressed her huge body against the wall, and then she pushed. With all her strength, she pushed until finally, the wall broke open. There stood her baby, muddy, scared, but alive. But the calf couldn't get up the slippery slope. His legs were too short, and each time he tried, he slid back down. Without thinking twice, 5 rescuers jumped in. They pushed from behind, hands slipping in the thick mud, rain pouring down on them. Their arms and faces were covered in dirt, but they didn't stop. Then, with one last big push, the baby climbed out. He ran straight to his mother, and she wrapped her trunk around him. She wrapped her trunk gently around him and let out a loud, joyful trumpet that echoed through the forest. It was a sound full of love, relief, and pure happiness. Everyone standing nearby felt it deep in their hearts. This was more than just a noise. It was a mother saying, "My baby is safe." The vet gave the baby one last check and handed over some medicine to help with the pain. He was tired, a little hurt, but he was going to be okay. The rain still poured down, but the mother and calf stood side by side, letting the water wash over them. The rescuers watched from a distance, muddy, soaked, and smiling through their tears. Then, slowly, the elephants turned to leave. The mother walked toward the forest, but just before they disappeared into the trees, she stopped and turned around. She looked at the people. Not by mistake, not quickly. She stood still and looked right at them. It was calm and clear. It felt like she was saying, "Thank you." And then, they were gone. But that wasn't the end. In the days that followed, the mother and her baby returned to the village a few times. They didn't cause trouble or ask for anything. They just stood near the edge of the trees, quietly watching. To the villagers, it felt like a soft reminder. A silent message that said, "We remember what you did." And the people remembered too, because it was a moment they would never forget.